Hi, welcome back. Today I'm going to be demonstrating how to prepare fecal stool, basically, for fecal matter transplant. The more polite term is bacteriotherapy. And what you are going to be doing, or what I'm going to be doing, I'm not going to demonstrate the actual enema part of it, but I'll demonstrate how to prepare the sample. I'm sure there are a number of fetish sites and channels devoted to stool enemas, but I'm just going to be showing the prep. Fecal matter transplant at this point in the United States is only legal, meaning your doctor can prescribe it and you can go to a clinic and get treated with fecal matter transplant only if you have C. diff. So if you've taken antibiotics for a very long time or you have some other issue and somehow you develop C. diff, you can legally be treated using bacteriotherapy. If you're a person like me who does not have C. diff yet, but I do not want to get it because I've been on pretty serious antibiotics for a few months, and I could be on antibiotics for the better part of 2 years, I am doing it myself. If you do fecal matter transplant yourself, you need a donor. That's the first thing you need. Somebody who's healthy. In my case, I'm very lucky. My partner of 6 years or more is a very healthy person. He's never taken antibiotics in his life, and he never gets sick. He's very lucky. His immune system is very hardy, and his bowel habits and everything are very healthy as well. He is a healthy person. We're both mostly vegetarians. I've been a vegetarian since I was 14. I don't eat meat or fish. He typically doesn't, but he did actually eat some fish a couple days ago at a business meeting. That being said, I'm using today frozen stool. Normally I would use a fresh sample of stool. I would ask him to donate basically by relieving himself into a plastic bag. And sometimes I collect samples for future use like I have done in the past. So this is from January. You can keep stool samples supposedly for 6 months in the freezer. You need to basically quadruple bag them in Ziplocs because it is smelly and nasty and you don't want your freezer to be stinky. Or you can get a dedicated freezer perhaps, but it is handy to have some frozen samples. Normally I would do a fresh sample except for this fish issue. In fact, I think I'm going to have my partner screened again before I do my next fecal matter transplant. So you choose a donor, that's the most important thing. And then the second most important thing is you have to have that person screened. You cannot really put, especially if you're somebody like myself who's ill and has a very compromised immune system, you do not want to be putting random stool in your colon. That would not be good. There are 2 fecal matter donor banks in the United States that I know of, open by them on the East Coast. I live in Sacramento, so I'm very lucky we have one here. It's called Advancing Bio. They're very nice. If you have a donor, you can take them in with you to donate stool, and when you do that, they will test your donor for a lot of infectious diseases. They test both the stool and the blood. Now, if I had to take my partner to my doctor and say, hey, I want to do fecal matter transplant at home, I need this person tested, it could cost $5,000 or $10,000. I don't know how much the testing would cost, but it would be very expensive. If you go to the probably Open Biome or Advancing Bio websites, there's probably a list of infectious things they test for, but it's pretty extensive. So that's the most important thing. If you're going to get a donor, have them screened. Don't do it without having somebody screened. Another technique perhaps would be to find some healthy child that you maybe know, a family member or friends' kids who haven't had a lot of antibiotics or any really ideally, but certainly if you're going to find a healthy child who has a healthy gut and hasn't taken antibiotics or at least hasn't taken them in some time, they should probably be screened too, but it's probably safer than an adult, somebody like myself or even my partner who's done a lot of traveling and you've picked things up over your lifetime that live in your biome. In fact, neuroimmune disease, I think one of the things that seems to happen is the more traveling you've done, and I've done a lot, the more countries you go to, the more you've exposed yourself to infectious diseases, things that if you have a healthy immune system, your immune system keeps in check. So you might have a lot of stealth pathogens living in your body by the time you're 50, like I'm almost 50. And normally your natural killer cells and other parts of your immune system keep those in check. But if you're like me and something has gone wrong with your natural killer cells, my natural killer cell function is 4. It should probably be up around 100. You tend to get reactivation of things like herpes viruses, and certainly tick-borne illness is another one that seems to reactivate. I was bitten by a tick in Point Reyes about, I don't know, 13 or 14 years ago. I pulled the tick out. It had it embedded for maybe, I don't know, 10 hours, 12 hours. We pulled it out, put it in a bag, broke down camp. I ran home and got on antibiotics immediately, which I took for 2 weeks. And doxycycline for 2 weeks probably wasn't enough. Maybe, it killed off some of the Lyme. Did it get the Babesia and the Bartonella and the relapsing fever? Probably not. I certainly seem to have antibodies to all of those pathogens. So it's possible that when I got bit by this Lyme tick, and I could have been bitten again, I don't know, but certainly I know I had a tick in bed at one point. Maybe my immune system sort of kept all the stuff in check until something happened to it. And then, the stuff reactivated. I can't know exactly what happened, but here I am 5 years later doing fecal matter transplant in the hopes that it helps me get back on my feet. So my sample is frozen. I'm going to have to wait for it to defrost. So I will sign off and then be back again in a few minutes to show you how to prepare the sample for putting into an enema bag. And then I'm not going to show you the enema part, but you can go to thepowerofpoop.com. That's a good place to start if you want to learn how to do it. I guess actually I can show you the various things that are needed here. There's distilled water. You need probably a cup of distilled water with a 1/4 teaspoon of salt dissolved into it. I put it in the microwave for maybe, I don't know, 45 seconds or something. I used to use 2 cups of water. It's too much. I use a cup or a cup and a half. That seems to do the trick. The other things you will need certainly are a disposable enema bag. That is, it's kind of the key item. Notice the lock on the bottom. That's very important. You can just buy these on Amazon. It's just disposable enema bag. You need a hook to hang the enema bag from. It's gravity flow. I do my fecal matter transplant in the bathtub, and gravity is basically what pulls the fecal slurry from the bag into your colon. So you need to hang it up high, not extremely high, but high enough to get flow. And you need a strainer. In fact, that is the most difficult part of fecal matter transplant, doing it yourself at home, is straining. It's easy to put it in the blender, add some water, but then you've got to strain it through a strainer and get it into an enema bag, which is the tricky part. Also, the morning before you do fecal matter transplant, it's a good idea to take Imodium. I found this helps a lot. Some people don't do that. I have never had a problem with leakage or anything like that after I do a fecal matter transplant. If I've taken Imodium in the morning, it's up there. It's gone. It's absorbed into my body. It's not like I get out of the bathtub and am having some sort of diarrhea problems. That's never happened to me. They say after you do fecal matter transplant, you should try to hold it in for 6 hours, not have a bowel movement. I've never had an issue with that at all. If you evacuate before you start and you take Imodium, your fecal matter transplant will be absorbed by your colon. At least that's been my experience. I have not had any issues with feeling urgency, having to go to the bathroom, anything like that, or anything leaking out. I've never had anything like that. So basically, once you get your slurry into the enema bag, I think things are pretty smooth from there. The other thing that you need to know is this part of the enema bag is very important. This is the lock. What you want to do is a lot like a PICC line lock. You want to make sure that this down towards the end, this part is going to go inside your body. It has a little bit of lubricant on it, but you can put more on if you need. The part that goes down, it's getting close to where it's going to be inserted into your body. You need to put that lock on it. So now that is locked up tight. So when you add slurry to your enema bag, it will not squirt out the end. Very important, do not let it squirt out the end. Once you get this into your enema bag and hang it, you can lie down in the bathtub and only then, take off this end, put it inside your body, and undo this latch. But don't undo this latch till the very last moment, until this part is, inside your rectum. You want to have that inside your rectum. Okay, I will be back when my stool sample has defrosted. Hello, I'm back. It's taking a while to defrost the stool, longer than I thought, and so I'm going to try to put it in the blender with the lukewarm saline, and we'll see how it goes. But again, fecal matter transplant, it is basically just a stool enema, and it is one of the lowest tech yet highest tech things I think you can do in terms of treatments. I just think, as research has shown over the last 5 years or maybe more, it does seem like so many autoimmune and neurological diseases start in the gut. So gut health is very important. My upper gut certainly is not in good shape. My lower gut, I've had a lot of stool testing, but I don't know the results of that yet, since I'm part of a study at Open Medicine Institute. I'm not sure what the results of my stool tests are, but I'm guessing, like everything else in my body, it's probably pretty off. Definitely, I feel like fecal matter transplant has helped me, and there's just the idea that there's so many bacteria in your gut, probably, I don't even know how many, more than the number of neurons in your brain or stars in the universe, probably not that many, but a lot. And so when we think of I and our thoughts and feelings, how do we know it's really not our bacteria doing a lot of the signaling to our brain for us, and a lot of production of neurotransmitters? Really, it's sort of unknown at this point, but also there's a lot of potential, I think, and it's helped me. So if you're going to try it, again, I recommend getting a donor, getting them screened. And now I'm going to put some gloves on. I'm going to try to put the stool into the blender, add the saline. We'll see how it goes. Again, this is a frozen specimen. In some ways easier to handle than a fresh one, but not quite as disgusting either, I have to say. A fresh stool specimen is pretty gross. Yeah, I bought a dedicated blender. We had a used one that I've had for many years, and it works just fine. I tried the bag approach first, where you just sort of mash the stool up in a bag and strain that. That doesn't work very well, in my opinion. Also, too, you want to have a garbage can with several layers of plastic in there. And so there's this whole bag approach, where you have your donor relieve themselves into a Ziploc baggie, and you would just mash that up with the saline and then strain it. And I have not had very good luck with that. You just really can't, especially if your partner is on the high fiber diet, which they're supposed to be doing, or my partner, who just eats a lot. We have mostly a plant-based diet. So he eats a lot of fiber, and it will, even after you strain it, clog up your enema bag. So I do recommend a blender. It does seem to work a little bit better. Now add your saline. I use 1.5 cups with a 1/4 teaspoon of sea salt per 1 cup of distilled water. And blend. Oops, my blender is not plugged in. I have to move my blender, unfortunately. And get a new glove. I'm going to pause while blend. So I have changed my gloves, and my fecal matter transplant is blended in the blender. You don't want to overdo the blending if you're using a blender. You don't want to disturb the bacteria more than you have to. Now is the difficult part, which is putting the fecal matter transplant into an enema bag. So at first it has to be strained and funneled into an enema bag. Now basically you've got to pour it through this strainer and pour it through this funnel and get it into this, you know, somewhat narrow opening at the top of the bag. So this is the part that I have found to be most tricky. And usually I have some help, which I might be enlisting here in a moment. We'll see how it goes. And one thing that helps is putting your hanging hook through the enema bag sometimes. So that sometimes helps if you're trying to, I pour it in over I do all this over the bathtub. So this is how I hang my enema bag. I just put a hook through the back of it, which is today giving me some trouble. Yep, you get your hook through the back. Now you've got to get the funnel into the top of the enema bag. So here I'm putting my enema bag into the tub. The lock is on. That's very important. Keep the lock on. And use your funnel and strainer. Again, opening the enema bag is kind of the tricky part. The top, thankfully, stays sealed, which is great for when you're using the enema bag, but not for when you're preparing it. So I'm basically set up. It's probably difficult to see. I have my bag and my strainer and my funnel. And then you just pour the fecal matter transplant into the enema bag. And I'm going to pause to do that because I need a little help. It's a lot easier with two hands. Hello, I'm back. You notice the ceiling fan is on. That is because the odor is pretty strong. And the most difficult part I wasn't able to videotape because there were two of us, and one person has to hold the enema bag open with the funnel and a strainer, and the other person pours. But what happens every time is the strainer will inevitably get clogged. And so when that happens, you've got to kind of give it a shake, move it to the toilet, get rid of the excess fibrous stool in there, and then start again. So I go back and forth from pouring to the toilet to clean out the strainer a few times. But at the end of everything, what you get is a bag with slurry in it. And as you can see, the stool is already moving down the enema bag. It will not fully move to the end until I open the lock. But again, you need to lie in the tub. I use these foam pads because you have to lie there for about an hour, basically. So you lie in the tub, you insert the end of the enema bag into your rectum. Only then do you unlock the enema bag, and stool, if you've hung it up high enough, you know, I have it up, I would say it's over 3 feet high, will flow from the enema bag into your colon, where it will stay if you've taken your Imodium. So I hope that was helpful, and good luck if you decide to try this at home.